Cool. Thanks everyone for stopping by. Welcome to today's webinar, 3 ways to generate leads today with tech. And that's with MAPS coaches, Tim Beverlin and Mike Hillary. I'll keep this short and sweet. Please note this meeting is being recorded, and I will share the link in the chat momentarily to the MAPS YouTube channel where the recording will be available within 24 hours. Currently, everyone is on mute. However, we do value group participation. So we ask that if you have questions for your coaches, please type them into the chat box below. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or any other coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack, FASTTRACK @kw.com. That's all from me, guys. Floor is yours.
Cool. Thanks so much, Graham. Good to see everyone here this afternoon or this morning. Good to see you, Mike, as well, after a bunch of travel. Thank you for bearing with us in the waiting room a little longer than anticipated. It wouldn't be a tech class or a tech session unless we had a tech challenge in the beginning. So we're gonna move right forward. Any starting words from you, Mike, before we jump in?
You know, it's more, one of the things I realized in like my 20-day break is that your ability to connect is going to really determine your success in technology. And so like what we're covering today, I couldn't be happier this is our topic.
Awesome. So we're going to jump in. I've got a PowerPoint we're going to pull up. Please do your best to ask some questions, pop them in the chat box. You'll have our contact information for questions you may have after this. I'm going to put this note in right now because it's not in the slides. Anything we talk about today, please do in a TCPA compliant way. So for all of you that are aware of what the TCPA compliant way is, check the National Do Not Call list. We do follow those rules. We are recording this, so I want to make sure that is in the beginning of our session today. So please follow the TCPA rules as it pertains to lead generation, and we're going to jump right into it. So I'm going to pull up my screen. Everyone should be able to see this okay. And what we're going to cover today is really 3 ways to lead generate, utilizing tech. How do I get leads today? Ideally, I mean, Mike, this is going to be a conversation between you and I that others are going to jump in as well. But just kind of jumping right into it, we got to start with contacts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you don't know who you're going to talk to, you can't have a conversation. It's really that simple. You know, one of the most, as I continue to work with teams, and especially as we have our top 1% masterminds here in our region this week, this is going to be a very important conversation. There is so much happening in the media when it comes to the real estate market. What conversations have you had with your contacts, with the people who have willingly handed over their phone number, their email, you know, their Facebook friends with you? They want to have this conversation with you. They're waiting for you to start it.
Great. So you have their contact information. So what I'd like all of you to do is just write down on whatever you're taking notes on the total number of contacts in your database right now. Whatever that number is.
Yeah, I'm hovering around 2,500 today.
Cool. And you, Mike, I'm probably pretty close as well. Somewhere in that ballpark, 2,000 to 3,000 people that are in my phone that I would consider actual contacts. I've got about that many in command as well, interestingly enough. Now, here's the second question. Right next to that number, the number of people you've actually talked to, voice to voice or face to face, which is still voice to voice, in the last 90 days. So your first number is the total number of people in your database or your contacts. Right next to that is the total number of people that have actually heard your voice in the last 90 days. What's the aha?
I'll be honest, it's lower than I was prepared for. Right? I'd love to see your guys' thoughts here in the chat. Like, what are you thinking as you put together those two numbers?
Somebody want to share their numbers? Number of people in your database, number of people that heard your voice. All right, I see some things popping in the chat, which is great. Would texting, great question. Would texting the contact count? We're really looking right now just voice to voice. Mm-hmm. Who's actually heard? So up to you if you want to count that. And yet I would say that's probably not voice to voice. All right, 2,500, 6, missing a lot of opportunity. Need to make more calls, missing a lot. Okay, awesome. 752 and 201. So some opportunities in there. Thank you for being upfront with these numbers. Okay, so in that, the question comes up, when they think of real estate, do they think of you? If they haven't heard your voice in the last 90 days, are you still relevant in a real estate conversation? What are your thoughts around that, Mike?
Well, so we've come up with all these complicated ways of getting around a conversation, right? We have emails, we have texts, you can DM somebody through WhatsApp or Twitter or name your app here. You can even send them postcards. But more often than not, when somebody's getting serious about real estate, they have questions that they need fast answers to. And those just aren't fast enough.
Yeah, so there is an opportunity. So I'll raise my hand. I've got a lot of people in my database. More have not heard my voice in the last 90 days than have. And all I can do is decide to make a change in that. How many am I going to contact in a purposeful way so that they're hearing my voice or they're getting or they're receiving my message? We're going to look at some strategies today on how to do that. So one that we have, just a quick screenshot up, write in command, go to filters, last contacted, longer than 90 days.
Mm-hmm. And this is a really important one to track, because your relationship only goes as far as your conversation goes. And if your memory is like mine, it's kind of goldfish. It's like, I know we talked about something, but I have no idea what it was. And so I just need a few keynotes on, oh, yep, we talked about their next home because they're about to have a kid.
And we're starting with voice to voice for a specific reason. So I just want you to write down. I know I'm having you write down. That's the interactive part of this. When is the last time that you personally replied to some kind of messaging that caused you to buy something or sell something from a phone number you didn't know? They text you something and it just said, hey, click here to get more information. And you did that as a consumer. Every day. Never. Zero. Probably not. Never. I'm getting not once.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about automation, it's really important, and we're going to cover some automation. And yet the reality is, if we as salespeople are not responding to those touches, why do we think our database will?
Yeah, what makes us unique?
And by the way, guilty of doing the same thing. So what we're doing today is we're going to make some changes, ideally, in our behavior, changes in our actions that'll produce more results. So I'm confident that every person on here, if you were to make 10 TCPA compliant phone calls today, when we wrap this up with individuals that haven't heard from you in the last 90 days, you would find a piece of future business. It's in there.
It's in there somewhere, right? It's like stuffing the raffle box. If you buy all the 50-50 tickets, guess what? You're going to win the raffle.
They have to pull your number. Isn't it amazing how that works? All right. So then you get to decide, what do your clients say you do? And then lastly, the frequency and intensity of your actual contacts to them. Part 2, make an offer for immediate response. Or you've probably heard, what's the acronym for this, Mike?
MOFR. If you've heard the term MOFR, this is what it stands for. This gets a really strong highlight in the Shift book, because when markets get extreme, if someone is having an issue, they look for an immediate response.
Yeah. Things like, we used to call it call to action at times. And then Shift did such a great job of making an offer for immediate response. And Gary's talked about that language a lot recently. Or what are the best MOFRs? What are those things that cause people to take action? So the question is, what will cause somebody to actually take action or reply to the message that I'm sending them? How can it be so compelling, that message, that my database needs to hear that? And then the second part is, what do they want to hear? If you had a ballpark, Mike, how many messages did you get around the time change, reminding you to change your clocks?
Believe it or not, I think I got 0.
Wow. I'm jealous of your lack of touches there as a consumer.
Because I unsubscribe from every single person who sends it to me. because it's not relevant to me. Like there's one device in my house that I need to change the time on. It's the microwave. Everything else is automatic now.
Even a lot of cars are automatic at this point in changing clocks, it feels like. And yet many of us live on a phone as being our primary alarm clock, database, email server. Great news. I haven't found a phone recently that doesn't change its own time. So we're good. So it goes back to those touches. And I say this respectfully to those that are still sending those out. Your database doesn't care about the reminder to change their clock.
No.
So what are the other touches that you could stop and your database wouldn't even notice?
Oh, definitely the recipe cards.
Newsletters.
So that brings up a really good conversation, Arthur. Is it a newsletter that's just exists so you have something, or is it relevant to somebody? Because if you have an investor newsletter that talks about market conditions for those who are buying property wholesale, are they going to find valuable information in that?
Yes, what I was referring to specifically though was I work for a couple of different teams doing their admin stuff and marketing stuff, and the kind of newsletters that I'm struggling with them to change are the ones that are just, oh, local events. This is my client spotlight, which all that is great and valuable, but when you don't have people that are opening it or doing the click-throughs, then does it actually bring value?
You measure
if you stop doing it, would they notice? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, because if you stop it and no one notices, it clearly did not bring that person value.
Yeah, there was a hotel chain, and I won't use their name because of doing this with so many people on here, that one of the options at the hotel was, do you want a goldfish in your room? They'd have a fish set up in your room when you got there. It's supposed to make you feel like it was home and it was this nice warm feeling. And I got to thinking about it over the weekend. I don't know why. These are the thoughts that go through my head of Memorial Day weekend before Memorial Day. And it was, I wonder why they stopped that. And the reality is it's been years since they stopped it and I didn't notice. And I stay at that hotel chain a lot before I noticed it. So it was a touch. It was maybe nice to have some theory somewhere. And the reality was the average consumer didn't care, didn't mean anything to them. So goes back to, and Mike used such a great point, market information. As a homeowner, I care what my home might be worth if I chose to sell it today.
Yeah, and here's the real challenge is if your database is more than 300 people, there's not one single message that's going to apply to everybody.
Such a great point.
Right. The more specific you can make it to what their specific needs are, their specific wants are, the more likely it is they're actually going to open it and read it.
Yeah. So retail stores do a great job of this. The biggest online retailer in the world does a great job of knowing the size shoe that you wear. And when that size shoe goes on sale, they'll send you an email and remind you that particular one. If they sent me an email and said, hey, guess what? Size 4 is on sale right now. You could buy the newest brand of size 4. I don't care. That doesn't apply to me. I don't wear a size 4. I would thereby just disregard that message. So as you look back to it, it's the message and then it's the method. Second is, how do I get this into the heads of my database, whether it's voice to voice, face to face, or some electronic system. We talked about SMS. We talked about newsletter, could be an email, could be some other possibilities as well. And yet they all need to have the ability to reply right away and a reason to reply right away to whatever that message is. So what's your home worth in today's market? We saw interest rates last week actually go down for the first time in a while, like 3 days in a row of interest rates going down. That could be a useful message to send to your entire database. What do the decreasing interest rates this week mean for the value of your home? What do the decreasing interest rate this week mean for your purchasing power? And what can you do with that?
And what do the latest construction numbers in town mean for you as a seller, as a buyer, renter?
In town, so relevant there, Mike, that it's local.
Yeah, and it's specific, right? Jason Abrams says the whole point of technology is to be more human more often. And so, right, when you're putting together your MOFR, right, you're looking for, okay, what's one question that these people have that I can provide a solution for. Because you want to give them that taste of that solution. That's going to be what gets them to reply.
So I'm going to read in the chat box from Kim. So what I hear you saying is the content is more important than just the touch. In the past, we were taught to send newsletters, call, basically anything for the touch, but that has changed. Yeah, Kim, great point there. For the purposes of making an offer for immediate response or for business today, if I want to generate business right now, the content's going to be important with a clear call to action or a clear reason they need to get back to us. For long-term nurtures, somebody that's 2-3 years away from making a real estate decision, those subtle touches or the content maybe doesn't have directly the impact. Although if it's really not valuable, they're going to unsubscribe and you're not going to get them 2 or 3 years from now when they're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should have a standard for what content you do send out, right? Does this answer a question? Does this provide professional validity for what I do? If the answer is yes to both of them, it's probably a valuable touch for somebody.
Great. All right, so those are the first two. We've got your contacts and actually having a conversation. We've got your contacts again and having a conversation. Seems like a repeat there. And the third one is your contacts again and targeted campaigns. So one way to generate business today or generate leads today is with targeted campaigns. So actually utilizing a Facebook campaign as an example that I'm targeting my existing database by tags.
Yeah, and so you want to have a sizable group for this too, right? If you're just trying to target 5 people with an ad, it's not going to be successful, right? You need at least 100 people on that tag for it to be relevant enough for Facebook to be your ally in this process.
So it goes back to your point, Mike, of if you have 300 people in your database, they probably have different ways in which they need to be touched. So if I had 300, maybe I've got 3 different targeted campaigns that are going out for each one of those 100 contacts that are touching them in a fashion in which they want to be touched. So maybe I've got 100 buyers or 100 sellers or 100 investors. Mm-hmm. And I'm really going to get specific in how I'm touching those. And then after I utilize tags, maybe I want some A/B testing here, which many of you are so familiar with from your regional tech trainers and from your market center tech trainers in how to do effective A/B testing. We can spend a lot of time on that today, yet in the light of time, really want to make sure that it just has a very clear call to action or that make offer for immediate response.
Yeah, and remember, you only have about like 5 square inches of space to get your message across. So it has to be concise and it has to be specific. Because most consumers anymore, they're all looking at their phone to see these ads more than anywhere else. The stats keep backing that up, and actually that number keeps rising.
Yeah, I read an article, interestingly enough, that said every word you put in your ad is a reason for me not to continue reading it. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. So keeping it concise enough that it's engaging me as I go through that and a reason that I need to continue reading. Otherwise, they become reasons for me just to say, okay, I'm good. Doesn't apply to me. Next. So again, all these targeted campaigns are a way to do that. Before we turn it over for Q&A for our last couple minutes together, because we want to be respectful for all of your times. We were late and yet want to be respectful to end on time as we plotted out to do. Want to just pop up what Mike and I have the privilege to be delivering over the next 8 weeks. We're running a program called Command Your Real Estate Career. It's going to be best practices like this. We'll go a little bit deeper on each of these topics over the next 8 weeks. It's $199 per month. I want to be very clear on that. It's a 2-month program, so it's a total investment of $398 for 2 months to hang out with Mike and I, get some best practices, build a community in there, and we're here and available for what questions you have.
Yeah, and these aren't just like Mike and Tim's opinions, right? Over the course of the past years, I've interviewed over 150 teams in our region who combined have closed over $1 billion. And so we're taking some of those best practices along with Tim's anecdotal research to show what's actually working as my light trips. There we go.
Cool. What questions do you have today? in our last couple of minutes together that we can answer, or ahas, they work as well. How long is each session? They are 30 minutes. Thank you for asking, Chad. 30 minutes, and they are recorded and will be kept on demand as well for that community. So if you're part of that community and you miss one, you'll be able to catch the recording.
Question?
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
This sounds very customizable. Do you guys put this systematically? I'm more concerned about time management.
As far as like here's what you're doing week 2, week 3.
When you're sending out ads, making phone calls, that kind of stuff, what does your schedule look like to make sure that you're accomplishing all of these tasks?
So there's 3 specific time blocks that happen consistently. There's the planning time block, which actually takes most of the time. Is, okay, am I putting together the right MOFR? Do I have the ad copy? Do I have the imagery right? There's the take action, which is actually posting the ad or sending out the content, usually fairly quick. And then one of the most important parts is the maintenance and the follow-up, right? Those are the 3 keys that, if you don't, and we'll dive pretty deep into those throughout our course, but without those, these are all just like, that's a really cool feature, Mike. That's nice. That's how you actually get value out of these.
Cool. And we're looking to complement what your market center tech trainers and your regional tech trainers are already delivering. This is not, let's get into the weeds of this particular applet and look at every nuance. That's not what the program's designed to be. It's really, how do I increase my commission? How do I make more money? How do I make my database smarter? And how do I increase my efficiencies and time?
How do I make more money in less time using the tools I have access to?
Cool.
So this is Keaton. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Keaton.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure. So I think you kind of clarified on. I'm going to ask one more question that will clarify it. So want to make sure this is not a how-to class. It's not a hands-on training to say this is how we navigate through command and set this up. This is more mastermind and strategies on how you can, and concepts on how you can use the best practices that some of the best teams are using. Did I get that right?
Yeah, this class is about the how to succeed at it. It is not the what to click to do that. We're going to rely on your regional tech trainer and market center tech trainers to help you navigate through the clicks, because we know everybody's starting from a different spot.
Yeah, really well said.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your schedule to jump on with Mike and I. Graham, thank you for hosting. Anything we can do, please reach out. We are really easy to get. We'll be happy to help with anything we can. We'll see many of you over the next couple of weeks, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.